so sometimes plans change and you don't read as many of the books on your TBR as you promised you would, but I think I have actually cracked the code this time. Hello, my lovely friend, it's Margaret. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about my February TBR, or as I like to call it, my February reading intentions. I have a slightly more ambitious TBR this month than I had last month, as I tend to do in February's. We'll get into those books in just a minute, but first, we need to talk about my TBR payment system. What is the TBR payment system, you ask? Let me explain. I am trying to get better about actually reading the books that I put in these TBR videos instead of just, you know, putting them on here and then going to read other things. In an effort to keep myself accountable, I was like, well, revisit this every month to see if I actually am reading the books on my TBRs. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, so what do I do if I don't read the books on my TBRs? And what I realized is a punitive system just doesn't work for me. What if I gave myself a reward for every book on my TBR that I actually finished? What if I paid myself and then at the end of the year I got to spend that money on books? I did steal this idea from my friend Aoife over at Pretty Purple Polka Dots. She does something very similar. I wanted to focus on books that I put in my TBR videos. I also know that Neva over at Reading with Neva is joining me in this. How is this going to work? Number one, I get $1 for every book that is in a TBR video that I finish. Number two, if I finish a book on the 25 on 25 bingo board that I am participating in this year. And number three, and here is the kicker, hopefully this will have the intended effect. Number three, if I finish a series or get caught up on that series, I give $5. Because we love getting paid, these stack. Those are the rules. Let's get into the actual check-in. I finished 5 of the books that I put on my TBR in January. Innocent Mage, Bluest Eye, Wrath of the Triple Goddess, and Vox Machina Origins Series 1 and Series 2. I also read Series 3, but that wasn't on my TBR. So for those counting, we are currently sitting at $5. Wrath of the Triple Goddess is also on my 25 and 25 list, so I get another $1, so we're at $6. And then I did get caught up on a couple of series. Wrath of the Triple Goddess gets me caught up in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. We don't even know at this point when book 3 for this trilogy, this like little extra trilogy is coming out, so I am officially caught up. And then I did also finish the Belladonna trilogy. So for those of you doing the math, that means that I get to put $16 in this little jar. Now, here's the thing. I don't carry a lot of cash on me, and usually when I do, it is not in the forms of 1s and 5s. So I bought fake money. What I'm going to do is every time I hit 20 bucks, I'll just go to the bank, get a $20 bill, swap it in there. And we will see how much money I get at the end of the year. Let's count out $16. These do have that new dollar bill feeling where they stick together. Let me double check this. We kind of already did the 25 and 25 check-in, but we do need to revisit a few of the spots because some changes have been made. Some of the books on my 25 and 25 were involved in a project that I'm no longer interested in doing anymore, and the only reason I was reading those books was because of that project. We swapped out Color of the Year. I am replacing that with Forged by Magic by Jenna Wolfhart. I also swapped out whatever I had chosen for self-published with A Shade of Madness by Thiago Abdallah. This is the second book in the Ashes of Avantras, I think is the name of the series, but the first book is A Touch of Light. I read that couple years ago for Spiffbo and really enjoyed it. I wanted to continue on with the series since we are trying to get caught up on series this year, and I only need 1 book. And then the final one that I swapped out was the one for From Another Challenge. Since I'm not doing that thing anymore, I don't have anything indie that fits that, so I just figure as we go through readathons, I will try and like use some of the indie fantasy that I already own. This month, I am going to be trying to tackle Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, and also I'm going to try and tackle Forged by Magic by Jenna Wolfhart. This has been on my Kindle for forever. This is going to be my romance for the Old Lady Crafts Hour reading sprints that we're doing on February 15th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. If you want to join us, the post will be linked down below in the description box. Let's get into what I'm actually reading for the month of February. First and foremost on the docket is the book that I need to read for the read-along that I am hosting with Leandra over at Leandra the TBR Zero, and that is the Little Thieves read-along. We are reading Little Thieves in February from February 1st to February 28th, and then we will be discussing it on March 1st. Time to be decided. We are doing reading sprints for this on February 8th on my channel and then February 9th on Leandra's channel. If you want more information about this, there's a whole video in the description box down below. What you need to know is that this is Fantasy Batcat. if you like the relationship between Batman and Catwoman, it's kind of that dynamic, except they are much younger and much, like, they not quite so jaded. I love that dynamic where you have a thief and a detective, and they're like kind of at odds, but also kind of working together, and he's eternally frustrated by her thieving ways. This is one of my all-time favorite books, not just because it's just such a great, fun YA fantasy, but also because it does have demisexual representation that I really feel like I resonate with. This will be the 4th time I am reading this book. I love it so much, and I can't wait to be able to read this really fancy Illumicrate edition that I have. After that, this is the month of book clubs for me. I am trying both to get more involved with book clubs in the online reading community as well as the reading community in my own, like, where I live. I am still participating in the Julie Hayes' book club. February's book is going to be All Boys Aren't Blue, a memoir manifesto by George M. Johnson. This is a collection of essays by George M. Johnson where he is exploring what it was like to grow up in New Jersey and Virginia as a queer black boy. Also, for the Weirdo book club, I will be reading Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a very, very short novella that I can't really tell much about what it's about, except that it is about a romance between 2 women. That is the most 2 women that meet at a farmer's market. I also want to try and get to The Reformatory by Tananarive Due for Michael LeBourne's Left Unread book club. This is a book set in the 1950s in Florida, and we are following a black boy who has been sent to like a reformatory school, hence the name, because he kicked a white kid. I assumed the white kid was being an asshat. So I assumed that this was in self-defense, probably. He's seeing ghosts at this school, and there's some really shady stuff going on. If you know anything about any sort of reform school, you know this is not going good places. It sounds like it might be a little bit horror and a little bit historical fiction. Those 3 are all public book clubs that you can join. I will have the creators' main platforms linked down below so you can check them out if you are interested. I have also picked 2 local book clubs that I am going to be trying to join. Both of them are with my local library, so I am going to be reading The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. It seems like it's a tradition that I read a Ta-Nehisi Coates book every February. This sounds like a historical fiction with a little bit of supernatural in it, potentially. We're following Hiram Walker. It sounds like we're following him throughout most of his life, and he is enslaved in the South. Sounds like he's involved in different little rebellions and things that kind of led up to the Civil War and the Emancipation. I am very interested to see what Ta-Nehisi Coates' fiction reads like, because I love his authorial voice when we're talking about his memoirs. I've been wanting to get to this for a while, and I'm glad that I finally might have a chance to get to it and then discuss it. And then the other one is Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor. The blurb is very short on this one. It just says, a disabled Nigerian-American woman pens a wildly successful sci-fi novel, but as her fame rises, she loses control of the narrative. I'm very intrigued to see where she takes this, because there are a bunch of ways that she could go. There can be discussions about kind of how fame affects people. There can be discussions about authorial intent. I'm looking forward to seeing where this is going. And then we get into the ones that I'm reading for Patreon book clubs. We'll start with Tangled Up in You by Christina Lauren. This is the book for Brittany over at Brittany Loves Readings bi-monthly book club. I will be reading this. It's my first time reading it. I'm very excited. I love the Rapunzel tale. I especially love the way that Disney adapted Rapunzel, and this is adult Disney, so I'm very excited. Specifically, these are done in conjunction, I believe, with Disney, so there are a lot of similarities between what you see in the they're just a lot of fun little nods to those movies that we loved growing up. Also, I'm going to be reading Ace of Spades for Leandra over at Leandra the TBR Zeros book club. This is a reread for me. This is one of the group books for the Avengers Initiative Reading Challenge that we did back in 2021 and 2022, I think it was. We are following 2 kids at a primarily white school. They are 2 of the only black children at the school, and they start getting these really threatening texts from someone named Ace, threatening to expose their secrets that will involve outing one of them to his family, and he's not ready for that yet. It's a thriller. It had me on the edge of my seat, figuratively, not literally. I finished most of the end of it while on my evening walk, which I don't recommend doing, because when you react to things happening in the book, people will look at you like they want to send you away somewhere. We don't listen to the end of thrillers in public anymore. I also do have a buddy read planned of House of Bane and Blood with Neva over at Reading with Neva. This book was supposed to be read last month. And then I was like, hey, do we want to finish our little, finish this together as a buddy read? And unfortunately, we weren't able to, coordinate buddy reading in January, so we just moved it to February. So we're going to read that together. It is kind of like a steampunky, Victorian-esque, very loose on the Victorian part, fantasy world where we're dealing with different rival gang factions and commerce, and we've got someone that she's signed away, like, to help her family. She has agreed to a marriage, but then on the day of the wedding, this dude shows up. It's like, I don't want my competitors to have access to the stuff that you guys have with your family, so what if I made a better offer? And he makes a better offer, and now she's married to him. It's got the makings of a very good Margaret book. I think I'm going to have a very good time with it. This is also on my 25 and 25 board. I'm hoping that I will get all 3 of these done so that I will be caught up. It would not be a TBR video if I was not trying to do a readathon. I am going to be participating in Rainy over at Rainy Blue Reads Clue Readathon. This is my first year, like, actually properly participating. The last time that she did this, I tried, but it was in November, which is my busiest season at work, so I don't think I got very far. I have already started my first book for the readathon this time, so I am going to be reading A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Fazell. I love We Hunt the Flame. It's such a good series. I'm very excited to see what she's going to do with this kind of, again, we have kind of a steampunk Victorian-esque society with vampires. We're following Arthi and Jin and a couple of other people as they are planning a heist. All of these people having to work together and catching feelings and a lot of other things that are going on. There's some interesting stuff with a potentially magical pistol. It also, I believe, is based on Arthurian mythology to some extent. Just based on some of the things that I am reading, I've read it the first like 47 pages or so. That's as far as I've gotten so far today. And then we do get extra points if we read a murder mystery. So I went and I grabbed a couple from my physical TBR, and I went and grabbed a couple from my Goodreads TBR. So I have 5 mystery books that I think I'm going to try, like murder mystery books that I'm going to try and read. The first is Manslaughter Park by Tears of Price. This is another series that I could finish in one book and get money for. Do you see how this is working? I love these books. They are retellings of some of Jane Austen's novels, but as murder mysteries, as people trying to solve crimes. And I'm always just so intrigued and blown away by how she's able to like keep the spirit of the original story while also making this really fun and interesting murder mystery. The covers are also like just so pretty with the stitching and all of that. Like I'm very excited to be getting to this one. I know that it will have an audiobook, so this is probably going to help me out a lot. The other one from my shelf that I'm grabbing is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I have been told, I know this is about a woman who stopped speaking because she killed her husband. There's some other stuff going on. I suspect I know why the husband died. I have heard from like so many of the people that have read this book that it's one of those that you just cannot put down. It's time. I've got it on my shelves. It's time for me to read this and see what I think about it, see if I want to keep it. I'm also going to be getting to Jackal by Erin E. Adams. This is a thriller. Liz has come back to her hometown for her sister's wedding, and sometime between the ceremony and the reception, her sister's teenage daughter Caroline goes missing, and Liz is starting to put together the pieces between like Caroline's disappearance and a disappearance that happened when Liz was a teenager herself. She starts to get into this, and then she starts to realize that these aren't the only 2 black children in this town that have gone mysteriously missing, and she's digging into that. I'm also hoping to finally get to Blood Debts by Terry Benton Walker. I'm just going to keep putting this on TBRs until I actually read it because it just sounds like such an interesting book. We're following 2 twins dealing with their father's death and the fact that their mother is sick, except their mother is not sick. She has a curse, and they have magic, but there's like a whole bunch of stuff going on. It is set in New Orleans. Again, this is one that I've heard such good things about, and I really think I'm going to like based on what I have read and heard about this series. And the final one is from an author that I've been wanting to read their stuff since I saw them at BookNet Fest a couple of years ago, and it is The Forest Demands Its Due by Kosoko Jackson. We have another student at a school store. I've got a lot of student at school stories, but this time it's a prestigious school. It's known as a kingmaker school. Our main character doesn't want anything to do with that. He just wants to keep his head down and get through school. However, another student is murdered, and it turns out that there's only like 2 people that remember this student existed, and one of them is our main character, and the other one is the groundskeeper's son. I'm very intrigued to see how this mystery is going to unfold. It sounds like there might be a little bit of supernatural or spooky stuff going on, and I always love that. And I forgot about this, but the final thing we've got to do is we've got to draw 2 TBR cards and see. First one is a book you bought for the cover. Okay, so this is the closest to like an actual cover buy that I have, and that is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. I'm getting Rohirrim vibes from this. Norse mythology, things like that. This has also been on multiple TBRs, so maybe I'll actually get to it. I think I can get the audiobook if I need it. And then our final one is Upside Down, Your Prettiest Illumicrate book. So if you've watched my Illumicrate unboxing, you might be able to argue with me on this one about this being my prettiest Illumicrate book. but it will get a book off of my 25 and 25, and I absolutely adore, like, just the way that all this entire, like, everything they did comes together on this Illumicrate book, and that is A Hamajang Luck by Makana Yamamoto. So we have a former criminal that is trying to go straight and not do crime anymore, but someone from their past comes up and is like, hey, I need your help with something. So it sounds like there also might be some feelings there, so this should be a fun one. And I wonder if I might be able to find a audiobook for this one as well. That is most of what I am reading or going to attempt to read in February. I don't know how many of these I'll be able to get to, since Clue is one of those readathons where, like, you get the information very suddenly, and so I may have to scramble to pick some of these. The only one that I know I'm going to be reading is Tempest of Tea, because I'm already reading it because it fits a prompt. Here's the point where I tell you that if you're feeling chatty this question, I want you to answer down in the comments, but I really, 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 really want people to answer this question, because I want to know. I want to know if you were doing something similar to what I was doing to help you with your reading goals, what would you get paid for? Would you be doing the same thing that I'm doing, where it's like, oh, if I read books that I put in my TBR video or my TBR post, I get $1? Or would you be doing like, oh, if I finish a series, I get money, or if I get it off my physical TBR, I get money? Tell me more. Tell me more. I want to know about that. Okay, I want to know, what would it be? If you are not feeling chatty and you want to let me know that you watched to the end of the video, go ahead and leave me any sort of like $sign emoji, or it doesn't have to be a $sign, any sort of emoji that has to do with currency. Leave that in the comments. I almost said description box, but you can't do anything with the description box because that's my job. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like. Also, if you are interested in more information about the Little Thieves read along that I was doing, because that sounded interesting to you, I will put that right up here. And right down here will be something that YouTube chose especially for you. And if you like the vibes, please do hit subscribe. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!